Hello, my name's Casey and welcome to our Peaceful Stretch class. Today's class today is actually themed on the idea of ahimsa or nonviolence, but what you'll experience really is just a stretch class. During it at different times, we'll be thinking of ways that we can be kind to ourselves and ways that we can treat ourselves well, and also in yoga sometimes ways that we need to maybe pull back a little bit from a stretch and be careful not to do any violence or harm to ourselves. But the class itself is very much a stretch class. During the class, we will be using, you might want to have a block if you have one nearby, and we will be using a tennis ball. If you have one, that's great. If you don't have a tennis ball, maybe something like a really tight rolled up pair of socks or something like that will be helpful for when we get to that part of the class. So welcome. And we're going to start, maybe start with you lying on your backs, just settling down onto your mat, and I'll lie down with you. And as you're lying on your back, just sort of let go of anything that you might have had, any thoughts you had coming into your class, and just let yourself settle down. And I think maybe thinking of a snow globe, you know, when you shake a snow globe and the snow settles down, just feel as if you're settling down that way, like the snowflakes kind of falling into your mat, noticing where the parts of your body are touching your mat, noticing your breath. And take a couple of just normal breaths, maybe sometimes for the first time in the day that you're paying attention to your breath. And during this class, at any time that there are things that we're doing that you want to make modifications or changes to, please do. You can also at any time return to Shavasana as we are right now on our mats, or to child's pose, whatever is comfortable for you. So keeping your left leg on your mat, draw your right knee in towards you and give it a nice hug. Just kind of a couple of breaths in and out as you're pulling your leg towards your shoulder, breathing in and letting it go a little bit, and exhaling, drawing it in a little bit more, like an accordion. And bring your knee to a comfortable position. And from here, we're going to do some ankle circles. So we're going to, through this class, be stretching out every part of the body. So we're starting with our feet. And in your ankle circles, see if you can go as slowly, maybe slower than you normally would, as slowly as possible. Just bringing your foot around, noticing places where maybe there are some creaks and crannies and maybe some tight spots. And rather than rushing through those, just pause and kind of go through those slowly, giving a nice stretch to those parts of your foot and your ankle. Then pause, take a deep inhale. And on your exhales, do the same thing going in the other direction. Just feeling kind of a slow twist in your ankle. We rely so much on our feet and our ankles that it's good to pay attention to them and to be kind to ourselves in terms of getting some stretch and release to them. And then pause. And drop your left hand down to the side and keep your right hand on your knee and just draw your knee, making your hip come around in circles. Again, maybe starting with really small circles, nice and gentle, letting your hip stretch. And as with your ankle, notice if there's places that feel tight, maybe a bit creaky. Go through those slowly, be gentle to yourself. And remember to breathe. Maybe drawing bigger circles, one more big circle around. And then pause on an inhale, and on an exhale, begin the same circles in the other direction. Remembering to breathe, remembering to be kind to yourself, knowing our hips also take a lot of action from us every day, and sometimes they can be quite stiff. Then pause next time you come to center and put both hands together again. Give a nice hug of your knee into your shoulder and towards your shoulder. And then holding your right hand on your knee, let your knee just drop out to the right. And here you'll be feeling a stretch up and down your inner thigh. You might use your elbow a little bit to give you a grounding on this, so you're not letting your hip fall too far. It's not actually trying to get right to the floor. It's just a nice stretch through your hip out to your right side. Take a deep breath in here and exhale. One more breath, just noticing the stretch. And as you exhale, draw your knee back up to the center and bring your right arm down to the side and take your left hand on your knee and draw your knee across your body. Again, being very gentle yourself. You're not actually going to try to lift your hips up or your shoulders up as you do this. So probably you won't go too far across, but just feel the stretch up and down the outside of your right hip. Settle here again with a few breaths in and out. Your next exhale, bring your knee back up. Stretch your leg up to the ceiling and just gently, with your arms at your side, lower your right leg nice and slow down to the mat. Remembering to breathe. And once it arrives next to your other foot, just rest for a minute and notice the difference. Notice how both of your legs are feeling. Usually there's a bit of a different feeling with the one you've just stretched. And then draw your left knee into your chest. Give it a nice hug. On your inhales, release a little, and on your exhales, draw it in, maybe pointing your knee a little bit up towards your left shoulder. And then settle your foot your leg in a place that's comfortable for you and begin to have some circles with your ankle. As we did with the other foot, just going around nice and slowly, probably noticing that this ankle is feeling a little different than the other one. Remembering to breathe and slowing down and paying attention to the tight spots. And pause and bring your ankle around in the other direction. Slow twirls. Once again, noticing, breathing, and then pause. And on your pause, draw your right hand down to the side and keep your left hand on your knee and start to draw your left hip around in circles, really feeling the circle being guided by your knee, but the actual movement is in your hip. Again, going nice and slowly, feeling what movement you have, what tightness you might have in this hip. Being gentle with yourself. And then pause and bring your circles around in the other direction. Remembering to breathe. And then pause on your next time around and draw your hands together, tighten your hip back in, drawing your knee back up to your shoulder. And then still holding on to your left knee with your left hand, put your hand back down and let your left knee just fall out to the side. Again, using your elbow for a bit of support if you need to. Don't go too far, painful. Just a nice stretch up and down your inner thigh. Take a few breaths in and out here. Trying to keep your hips and your shoulders flat on the floor. Take an inhale, and your next exhale, bring your knee back to center and switch hands, drawing your left hand out to the side and very gently using your right hand to pull your knee over toward the right. Keeping your shoulders both on the floor, your hips on the floor. Just kind of exploring a little bit, giving a stretch up and down the outside of your hip. And usually one hip is maybe a bit tighter than the other hip, so be gentle. And then take an inhale and draw your foot up to the ceiling and very slowly let your whole leg drop itself down like a snowflake onto the ground. Just rest here for a minute, wiggle around, notice how both of your hips are feeling, how your legs are feeling. And on your next inhale, draw both knees in, hold on to both knees, and just do some circles around. Kind of feeling, again, really slow circles, feeling your lower back now having the stretch, taking advantage of the movement. And pause. Nice and slowly go in the other direction. Then pause. Draw your arms out to both sides and just fall over to your right side and bring yourself up. We're going to go into a tabletop. So coming up on our knees. And when you're on your knees, you might want to put a blanket under your knees or just kind of double up your mat kind of down toward the end so you have lots of room at the top for your hands and your knees are nice and supported. Again, being gentle and kind to yourself. And we're forming tabletop with your hands right below your shoulders, your knees right below your hips, and just kind of feel some figures of 8, kind of moving as if you're drawing a figure of 8 or an 8 with your nose. Again, giving some stretch and some movement to your shoulders and to your hips. Remembering to breathe. Next time you're at the top, maybe move around and draw your 8s backwards. Remembering to breathe. And bring yourself back to a neutral position in your tabletop with your back nice and flat, drawing your belly up into your back so you're nice, neutral, strong table. And from this position, we're going to draw our right arm out toward the front and draw your left leg behind you. And you can just be like this in a modified sunbird. Or if you feel comfortable, lifting your left leg up into a full stretch. So you're reaching out as far as you can with your right hand and as far behind you as you can with your left. Just feeling a stretch all the way up and down your body. A deep breath in and out here. And then on your next exhale, bring yourself and your knee and your elbow together and then draw them back out for another long stretch. Feeling yourself really, really, really stretching back out the back of your leg. Then draw your hand and your knee back down. Bring yourself back to a neutral position. You can inhale, and on your next exhale, draw your left arm out and your right foot behind you. And again, you can stay right here if that feels like enough of a stretch for you. Or draw your foot up and really, really stretch out. Just a bit of a balance as well as a stretch. Feeling your hand go out as far as possible in front of you and your foot behind you. Remembering to breathe. And then on an inhale, bring your knee and your elbow together. And an exhale back into the stretch. And then on an inhale, bring yourself back to neutral. And from here, we're going to still stay on our knees, so keep your mat folded and bring yourself up on your knees. And we're going to do a bit of a stretch right now for our wrists, because they might have felt that a little bit. And take your left hand and just grab your fingers of your right hand and just kind of pull your wrist back. Your fingers back for a bit of a stretch on your wrist, and then going the opposite way with your right hand facing down and your left hand pulling your fingers back towards you. Maybe circle these around. Then try it on the other side with your fingers upright, drawing them back, and then down, stretching out. And then maybe just shake them both out. And draw your hands behind you as if you were putting them into the pockets of your jeans. And from here, just give a nice push down so that you're feeling a bit of a stretch in your lower back already. And keeping your legs and your hips straight. We're going to do a stretch that takes our body backwards at the top. This is a camel stretch, kind of just gently starting to look up towards the ceiling, drawing the top part of your body back and keeping your knees and your hips stable. So just go back as far as comfortable for you, feeling a stretch mostly across your chest and your upper body. And inhale. Bring yourself back to neutral, shake it out a little bit. And here you can release your mat. And keeping your knees still on the floor, we're going to actually go into a child's pose. And you can do this with your knees together or your knees apart, just leaving yourself forward. You might feel slightly dizzy, so it's good to rest here with a few breaths in and out, just relaxing onto the floor. Remembering to breathe. On your next exhale, draw your hands a little forward, keeping your head still on the floor. You're still in a child's pose, but this is now an active child's pose. So you've got your hands reaching out ahead of you, and you're almost like you're pulling yourself, getting a bit more of a stretch through your shoulders and through your arms, but still keeping your head on the mat and your hips back in the child's pose position. Just feel a stretch there. Kind of feel as if you're trying to pull the mat forward towards your shoulders. Remembering to breathe. And from this position, settle your hands on the mat and then bring yourself up. We're coming up into a downward dog position. So tuck your toes under and push yourself up so that you're in a folded position, and you can walk your hands out a little bit if that will make this position feel more comfortable, and walk your feet back out so that you can get a stretch up and down the back of your legs. And then pause in stillness here and lean forward just a little tiny bit and just see if you can get a bit more bend up in your hips, and you can feel more of a stretch coming down your back legs. Take a deep breath in here and then tiptoe your toes so that you're walking up toward the top of your mat. And keep your feet here in hip width apart, your toes pointing forward, and just dangle. You're in Ragdoll here. You're just feeling a nice stretch up and down the back of your legs and over your back. Just let yourself dangle. You might want to hold on to your elbows. You might want to have your hands touching into the floor. Then very gently bend your knees and draw your arms out. Big inhale, bringing yourself up to standing. Then draw your hands back down so that you're in mountain pose. And in mountain pose, your feet are right underneath your hips, your shoulders are nice and loose, and your hands are down by your side. And you're looking straight out in front of you. Take a deep breath in and out here. And draw your arms up with a big inhale. So big inhale, drawing your hands up. And I'm going to turn so you can see me, but you can stay at the top of your mat. And as you make an inhale, draw your fingers together with your index finger pointing up. Your arms are just outside of your ears. Deep inhale as you stretch up as far as you can. And on your exhale, bring yourself over to the right side so that you're forming a half moon position here. You're stretching as much as you can up and down your left body while keeping your legs and your feet planted equally on the floor. Deep breath in and out here. Inhale, bring yourself back up. Switch your position of your hands so it's in the awkward position, still with your index fingers pointing up. Deep inhale, and on your exhale, bring yourself down into your half moon position towards the left. And again, your feet are grounded, your hips are grounded, and you're really just stretching your upper body, feeling the stretch up and down the outside of your right side body. Inhale, and draw your hands back down. And now we can actually you can grab your tennis ball or your rolled up sock if that's what you have. And this part of the practice is a great stretch that we're going to do on our feet. And it's a perfect time to be thinking of nonviolence to ourselves. Because as we do this stretch, some of it will feel very good. You have to be very careful to go back. If it's feeling hard, some parts actually might not feel as good on your foot. So we can adjust that as we go along. So you're just being gentle and kind to yourself. But I think you'll really like the stretch that you get and the movement that you get from this. So putting the ball under your right foot. You might want to be somewhere near a wall so you can hold onto the wall for balance. And just start by exploring, rolling the ball around, kind of noticing how it feels different in different parts of your foot. And as you release tension in your foot, you actually release tension throughout your entire body. And the parts of your foot are connected to different parts of your body. So there will be parts that you will find are tighter than others. I'm going to move this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Bringing your foot so that the ball is right under the heel of your foot and your other foot is somewhere where it's comfortable to give you some support to stand on. At this point, your toes will be on the floor. The ball will be right under the heel, and just press up and down a few times, kind of giving some pressure onto the heel. This might be giving a lot of sensation to some people, and if it is, this is the time to be very gentle and press lightly. Other people might find that this is actually a place where you can really squish that ball down, and it's not giving a lot of resistance in your foot. But notice, take a few breaths as you do the pressures. Then roll the ball or your foot so that the ball is actually sort of at the in between your arch and your heel, and continue with pressure points. Noticing it might be a little bit more tender here, it might not, it might feel just fine. And here you've kind of got your toes on the floor, but you might lift them up a little bit to get the momentum for the pressure. And then roll the ball so that it's actually under the arch of your foot. And at this point, you probably don't have your heel or your toes on the floor, so you're just kind of resting onto the ball. Many people find this is the part that you feel the sensation. So this is where we need to practice ahimsa, practice nonviolence to ourselves. Maybe roll the ball around, press it gently, know that we're getting benefit from this, but knowing that we don't need to do it to the point of pain, because there can sometimes be a lot of pain if we push too hard into the arch. So just explore there, give yourself a bit of a massage, do what feels good. And then draw your heel down onto the floor, and so that the ball is under what's kind of like the knuckles of your toes. And as you do this, the long bones of your toes will kind of separate a little bit, and you'll actually see your knuckles coming a little bit forward. And the same thing here, just kind of pressing, maybe moving back and forth to either side of the foot. Being gentle where it's needed, and giving yourself some sensation where it feels good. Remembering to breathe. And now we roll the ball so that it's actually under our toes. And I might have said this earlier, at any point if the ball splues out, which it might do for me or it might do for any of us, just go get it, come back to your practice. But you can start with pressing points under your large toes, under your big toe, and then kind of moving down through your smaller toes down to your baby toe, where it's probably most likely to spew out. Again, feeling the sensation, just really noticing how your toes are feeling and how the pressure points are feeling. Remembering to breathe. And then when you've had enough of that, just draw yourself off of the tennis ball, keep it, you've got another foot to do this on, and stand in Tadasana for a moment. So you've got both feet on the ground with equal weight in all sides of your feet. Take a breath in and out, and just notice how your feet feel, and notice how you feel on one side of your body compared to the other side through that practice. And then when you're ready, secure your right foot on the floor and draw your left foot over the tennis ball. And again, just start to explore here. You know what you're going to be doing, but kind of explore around so that you're rolling the ball back and forth and up and down on your foot, noticing how this foot is feeling, and probably quite often it's quite different from your other foot. But just exploring, giving a nice massage. Again, with ahimsa, nonviolence, trying to find the parts that feel best and working on those. Again, if you feel you need a balance, certainly make sure that you're holding onto a wall as you're doing this. And then bring the ball under the heel of this foot, under your left foot, your toes on the ground. And here you can, again, many people find they can put a lot of weight into this. If this hurts, don't. Stand back from it a little bit. But just a couple of pressure points, remembering to breathe in and out here. Then roll the ball a little bit up so that it's sort of halfway between the arch and your heel. Again, pushing up and down for pressure points. Being gentle, breathing. And then roll the ball again so that it's under your arch. And for me, and I know for many people, this is the part that I need to be very careful not to push too hard. And also because this is the part where we don't have any other part of our foot on the ground. So just leaning onto your right foot, just let your left foot kind of just bounce back and forth, up and down on the ball, getting a bit of a massage, but being very careful not to go so hard that it hurts. And then rolling it back a little bit more so that now you're under the knuckles of your foot. Again, being careful here, this can be a sensitive part as well, and moving maybe a little bit to each side to explore how this feels under each knuckle. And you can probably at this point have the heel of your foot on the ground so that you have a bit more stability. Remember to breathe. Then roll it back a little bit more so that it's under your toes. Starting with the big toes that for me have a bit more grab, and then moving down to the littler ones so it feels more like it's going to spew out. Remember to breathe, last few little pressure points here. And then you can let the tennis ball go and just kind of stand on both feet now in Tadasana, in mountain pose. Take a deep breath in, feel yourself exhaling down to the floor, and notice how both of your feet feel and how that exercise has made your body feel, the whole body feel. Just kind of moving around a little bit, feeling the different points of your feet on the floor. Just integrating the practice. And from here, I'm going to have you move up toward the top of your mat and have your feet out wide so that your heels are in and your toes are pointing out a little bit. We're going into a squat here, and in a squat, I always go in with my heels up. That works for me, and some people can put their heels down, and that works for them. But in a squat, kind of have yourself down, have your body as straight up as you can. You might want to use your elbows to give a little push to your knees to get a bit more of a stretch up and down the inside of your thighs. But this is really good stretching for you. It's also a good balancing pose. So take a few breaths in and out here. Take a deep inhale, and on your exhale, draw your hands behind you and bring yourself down onto your seat and scooch yourself up if you're not already there so that your feet are up near the top of your mat and your feet are still hip distance apart. So move them to hip distance apart. I'm just going to kind of rock back and forth a few times here just to kind of loosen up. And in this practice, we're going into some twists that you may want to have a block handy as we go through these twists. So if you have a block, make sure it's near your mat. And the next time you twist to the left, just let your legs fall that way so that you're in a position here where your left foot is up on your right knee is behind you. Take a deep breath and bring yourself up so that you're straight up. Your back is nice and straight. Your hips are as much as possible on the ground. Your right hip might be a little bit up. And then draw yourself around in a twist so that you bring your hands down and they're behind you. And you're kind of just leaning down here into this twist position and feeling a spiral up and down your back. So again, a really nice twist and stretch for your back. Take a few breaths in and out here. And then draw yourself back up into your position with your knees bent. And keeping your knees together now and your feet together, put your hands out front, and we're just going to work our way down onto the mat. So get a little bit of core here by just slowly releasing ourselves down onto the mat, thinking of that snowflake again, going down nice and soft. And when you're on the mat, keep your knees bent and lift your knees up towards you and give yourself a nice big hug and kind of a rock here back and forth. And then settle your feet back on the floor and lift your right leg and place it over top of your left knee. And we're in a figure 4 position here and thread the needle. So you can put your hands behind your leg and give yourself a nice stretch by pulling yourself in. If that isn't quite accessible for you, you can just lean your legs in towards your body and kind of hold on to your foot and your knee. And then draw yourself back down so that your left foot is on the floor. And keeping your whole body in this position, let yourself drop gently over to the left. And again, a nice stretch happening, keeping your shoulders as much as possible on the floor, bringing your foot of your right foot down to the floor. Just drop gently and have your head look over to the right. Nice stretch happening here. Inhale, draw yourself back up to center, and keeping your legs in the same position, just slide your right leg over the left, and this is where you might want your block, handy. And we're going to just tip from this position over to the right, and you might want your block just under your hip here because it's a long way to the floor. You don't want to do any harm to yourself. And from this position, just drop your head to the left and feel a nice stretch up and down the outside, left side of your body. Draw your head back up to center. Put this over on the other side because you're going to be needing it again. Draw your feet back, and from this position, pull yourself back in and give yourself a nice hug in little boat. And then let your little boat fall over to the right side. And have your left hand on top of your right hand, so your whole body is just relaxing for a moment. Just let yourself sink from this position into the floor. Your knees are bent, your hands are straight out beside you, your head is on the floor. Take a nice inhale and exhale here. And on your next inhale, let your left hand just draw across your body and have yourself turning and twisting. Your knees staying still and together, and your hand, if possible, reaching out toward the left side and to the ground if there's room. If there's not room, you can use your block here to grab your hand and have your hand on that. Turn your head to look over your left shoulder and just feel this twist and stretch up and down the outside of your body. On inhale, kind of twirl your hand again, curling it over and drawing it so that it's resting over your right hand. And here's a fun part. We get to, from here, just take our whole contraption and roll ourselves over to the other side. So that your knees are still bent, your hip is on the floor, your right hand is on top of your left hand. Take a nice breath in and out here, and then really slowly draw your right hand across, out into the T, feeling the stretch and the twist on the right side of your body. Taking a breath in and out here, enjoying the twist. And then curl your hand and your wrist and your elbow and kind of bring your arm all the way over and back so that you're lying on your left side. And then just as we did before, this fun part, we get to kind of roll up and over, all the way over to the other side. Here, we're going to bring ourselves up to seated, and ta-da, we have ourselves ready to go with a twist in the other direction. So this time your right foot is on your left knee, your left foot is behind you. Straighten your body up with a nice big inhale, and with an exhale, draw yourself around so that you're twisting, facing down towards the floor, feeling whatever is comfortable for you in terms of how far down toward the floor you want to go, but really feeling a twist and a spiral in your body with this. And very gently bring yourself back up to seated. Draw your feet together. Bring your arms out front. And once again, we get to do a little core work, bringing ourselves back onto our back. Settling ourselves on the back with our feet on the floor. Drawing ourselves into a little boat, with a little twist back and forth. And then settling our feet on the floor. From this position, we lift our left leg so that our left ankle is over our right knee in a figure 4 position, and then draw this full leg and position into your body. And to thread the needle, so your hands are kind of going in and around as if they're through a needle. And you should be feeling a nice stretch up and down your left hip. And take this just to the point that's comfortable for you, feeling a good stretch and sensation, but not pain. Breathe in and out. Next inhale, bring your foot to the floor. Have your block ready on the right side. Let your left leg slide down so that it's over top of the right. And with your knees bent, just drop yourself over to the right with your block underneath you on this side. You can have your head fall over to the left. Draw yourself back up to center. You can release the block. Bring your feet back to the floor. Just feel your body kind of settling down, your shoulders and your hips on the floor with a brief breath in and out. And draw your knees in. We're going to start on the left side, drawing ourselves all the way over to the left side. With your hand, your right hand on top of your left hand. And with your inhale, stretch your arm across, bringing your arms out to a T and leaning with your left, with your head going to the right and your left hand hopefully still staying down on the floor. And then when you're ready, draw your hand up, bending yourself over and peeling yourself back into the position, leaning over to your left. From here, the fun part, we get to just slide ourselves over to the right. With your left hand on top of your right hand, your knees bent, your shoulder and your head on the floor. Gently pull yourself out into the T, sliding your arm over your shoulders and putting your left arm out to the side and looking over to the left. Breath in and out here. And draw your hand, curling it back over you. And resting with a deep breath in and out. And then we can roll back, but this time don't go all the way over. Just bring yourself back to center. Scoot yourself down if you slid up your mat. Draw your knees in. Some nice circles with your knees. Feeling a stretch and a massage in your lower back. Pause. Bring your knees back around the other way. And bring yourself to pause and bring your feet so that they're just pointing up toward the ceiling. And bring your hands to either grab onto your shins or onto your feet. We're moving into happy baby here. And this is a great position to just be still in if that feels good for you. So you just have your back on the floor, sinking in, giving some maybe pull, some tension, pushing or pulling in your feet so you're getting some stretch in your legs and your hips. Just rest here. If you feel that you really want to move, you can let yourself slide a little bit from side to side, or let one leg kind of stretch out a little bit and the other one bend in so that you're going side to side, trying hard not to go and get stuck by rolling all the way over to the side. Bring yourself back to center. And you can release, draw your knees in. And put your feet on the floor and just gently bring your feet down so that we're lying flat on the floor. Noticing again where all parts of your body are touching the floor. As we settle into Shavasana, first feel your head and just put the back of your head and press it a little bit into the floor, lifting your shoulders up and then letting them drop down onto the floor, just like those final snowflakes falling into that globe. Take an inhale, and on your exhale, just let your head drop to the right, not lifting it at all, just letting it roll across. Feeling a stretch up and down in your neck. Next inhale, bring your neck back up, your head back up. And let your head drop to the left. Just nice, gentle stretches. Finishing our full body stretch. One more inhale, and then let your head drop to the right. Really good for necks and heads that have maybe had lots of tension looking at screens, that kind of thing. Drop your head down to the left. Bring your head back to center, and I invite you to settle yourself in for Shavasana. Resting, letting go of your breath, letting go of everything. A few breaths in and out. Integrating your practice. You're welcome to stay in this position for as long as you like. You can turn off your computer, but if you want to finish with me, you can draw your knees in one more time and roll yourself back up to seated. And take one more breath, gathering all the energy in the room up in between our hands, drawing our hands back down into Anjali Mudra. Peace. Thank you very much for sharing this peaceful stretch with me. I hope you have a wonderful day. Peace.